Free agency season is just a couple weeks away, and so what do the Chiefs need to do to make sure they put themselves in the best position to have an absolutely amazing offseason? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what moves I think Brett Veach and the Chiefs should make in the coming weeks. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and today we're breaking down the news. But if you want the Chiefs to have a great offseason, you want Chris Jones back, you want them to sign a top-tier wide receiver like Michael Pittman Jr., well, like the video. Don't be the jinx, because I know the more likes, the easier this is going to be, and it's all going to work out perfectly for Brett Veach and the Chiefs. And I know who likes the video, and I know who doesn't. So don't be the jinx, because if I find out that you didn't like the video and Chris Jones goes away and L'Jarius Sneed is traded and the Chiefs don't sign a wide receiver, well, I'm going to have to come find you, and I don't really want to do that. So hit that like button. It takes a couple seconds. I'd certainly appreciate it. Let's get into this video here with the first perfect part of this free agency plan is to re-sign Chris Jones. I think that's the obvious choice. It's the number one priority for Kansas City, and it's clear to see why. Before I get too much into it, let's talk money real quick, because the Chiefs' current cap space after cutting Marquez Valdes-Scantling sits around $38.6 million. Now, if you restructure Patrick Mahomes, Jawan Taylor's contract, and then you cut Lucas Niang, you could get that to around $60 million. Obviously, this is not including the franchise tag for L'Jarius Sneed, because either way, that $19.8 million is not going to be paid. It's going to be either traded to a team or they're going to extend him in a different form of contract, which we'll kind of talk on what that exactly could look like in just a moment. But either way, the Chiefs are going to have to be efficient with their money. Why? Because Chris Jones is going to cost a lot. He's going to be around 4 years, $118 million. At least that's what I have him labeled as right now. I've seen that kind of floating around. Most, I guess, contracts have him around $30 million a year. This one right here, 4 years, $118, sits him right around the $29.5 million. Now, I think this is why he has to be your first priority, because he is the guy who controls the defense. He's the leader. He's the aggressor. His presence on the field is just felt. You can't really replace that with anybody from the draft. As much as I like some defensive tackles in the draft, and we'll kind of go more into that in future videos, but you have to make sure that the guy who has in some ways been the Patrick Mahomes of your defense, you keep him on contract. Now, this past year, he set out that first game, obviously with the holdout. Still had 10.5 sacks. He was incredible pretty much all year long. His PFF grade north of 80, and 4 pass breakups as a lineman's pretty good. I love that Chris Jones overall is just the one who can kind of sit here and create a lot of different ways to ultimately create, I guess, space on the defense and make sure that this Chiefs D has the ability to control the field. I love L'Jarius Sneed, but he doesn't have the same effect on a football field as Chris Jones does. And I think that's why he has to be your number one priority. And on top of which, he deserves the money as well. The second one that I think you need to do is trade L'Jarius Sneed. He's franchise tag. It's time to tag and trade him. I know it sucks. I know that obviously you don't want to do this, but it's a business decision right here. He would cost a decent amount of money when you have to sign Chris Jones back. And right now, that just doesn't exactly make sense. You could potentially get a first-round pick plus more. I mean, you talk about Jalen Ramsey getting a couple first-round picks when he was traded. So there's a way that you could come out of this in a lot of positive manners and have some money to spend in free agency as well. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the comments section is going to rip me to shreds. Do you want the Chiefs to trade or extend L'Jarius Sneed? Because those are the options. Either he gets traded or he gets extended. That's pretty much it. You want him to get traded, then type T for trade. You want that first-round pick. You want that second-round pick on top of which, whatever you want. I don't know. Type T for trade. Or you want to extend him. You want him to be in a Kansas City Chiefs uniform for the rest of his career. Type E for extend. I'm curious to see what y'all say in the comment section. So get down there and fill it up. L'Jarius Sneed this past year, to me, maybe was the best quarterback in the NFL. Completion percentage at 51.9. Allowed just 406 yards. No touchdowns throughout the regular season. Only one in the entire season if you include postseason. It was in the divisional game against the Buffalo Bills on a back shoulder pass by Josh Allen. He had 14 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and a QB rating less than 57. I think that overall L'Jarius Sneed maybe cemented himself as a top cornerback in the NFL just from this past year. But if you think that this was the first year of L'Jarius Sneed being this good, you'd be wrong. I just don't think he never got the credit because his past 4 seasons, they've been impeccable. Back in 2022, 5 tackles for loss, 11 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. 2021, 8 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. He's had at least 2 INTs every single year. In the past 2 years, he's had double digits in his pass breakups. He's been playing like this for a long time, and the thing for the Chiefs, and I think why we have to sit here and talk about trading him instead of extending him, is because I will sit here and say Sneed was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The only problem, well, you see, the other best quarterback in the NFL to me, well, that was his teammate, Trent McDuffie. That's why he is less important than Chris Jones. Not less important in the NFL, less important on Kansas City. Because if you get away Chris Jones, you give him away, you don't have him. You have George Karlaftis on the edge, but your defensive tackles, man, they become Neil Farrell Jr. and Mike Pennell. I don't really want that. Whereas if you let L'Jarius Sneed walk, you extend him or trade him rather, you have Trent McDuffie who sits right there at cornerback 1. I'm not too mad at that. I'm not going to be sitting here saying, oh, no, he's going to struggle. We saw the way he played in the Super Bowl. That guy is a top-tier quarterback and honestly was the best player on the field in Super Bowl 58 to me. Here's what a potential trade would look like with L'Jarius Sneed going to the Eagles. And I know there's probably people saying, I don't want to trade to the Eagles. This is a stupid trade. I know. I kind of agree. But at the same time, this is the one that's floating around the media world, the Twitter world, whatever you want to call it. So I feel like it's important to put it on our show. Here's what they would get. A 2024 first-round pick, being pick 22 from the Philadelphia Eagles. And then Philadelphia would obviously receive L'Jarius Sneed. So basically what the Chiefs would be getting, pick 22, along with you're going to have pick 32. That's not a bad deal. You can draft a cornerback and draft a wide receiver with those 2 picks, get a defensive interior lineman at second round to help out Chris Jones. Hopefully you're re-signing him by that point. It just is a lot of different things to go on. Now, obviously, the franchise tag has already been applied, so there's only 2 options. You either trade him to a different team or you extend him. There is no in between. There's nothing else that can happen. Things have really moved fast over the past 24 hours, and it's crazy because, honestly, we could see a Chris Jones extension and really a re-signing any day. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. I would expect that within 2 weeks, we're going to have a lot of trains moving. We'll hopefully see Chris Jones being one of them. Before we move on to my 3 other perfect free agency moves that I would like to see, make sure you're checking out Prize Picks. They've got some amazing deals right now, and you can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match of $100. Now, I know football season might be over, and you're thinking, oh, well, Jace, what do I do? Well, guess what? Prize Picks has NBA, NHL, MLB, PGA, NASCAR, and the cool thing is, stuff on the basketball court's heating up. Now, whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, which is America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Now, I like my hoops knowledge. I'm good with the hard court, but I value my diamond MLB information a lot more. I've been showing you a couple throughout my time here, and here's another one I think you should follow me on. We got Mookie Betts, the more, on 32.5 season-long home runs. And then I know you're freaking out. Jace, a less? Yeah, I'm going with a less on Manny Machado, 30.5 season-long home runs. Listen, that Padres team is going to stink. I think people don't realize that they lost a lot of people. Soto's gone. Blake Snell's probably gone. I don't think that team is going to be good. And Manny Machado is starting to get into the point of his career where I think the age is going to start to hit him. So I'm going the more on Betts and the less on Manny Machado. You can put in these exact entries on Prize Picks right now. Plus, here's the cool thing. You get that $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using the code CLNS. Now, testing my skills on Prize Picks this past NFL season and through the NBA season and now NHL and going into MLB has been really, really exciting. And if you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Prize Picks, like I said, also offers promotions that can lead to big payouts. One of the cool ones is Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts a select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using code CLNS, you're going to get a first deposit match of up to $100. That link will be in the comments and the description of this video. All right, let's go to the third perfect free agency plan here, and that is to sign a wide receiver. Now, given the money you could save by, trading away L'Jarius Sneed, you could sign somebody on a top caliber level. Here's the free agent wide receivers that I could see the Chiefs going after. And honestly, here's the 10 guys that could be good ones. Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, Gabe Davis. That'd be really funny to see him in a Chiefs uniform. Marquise Brown, Darnell Mooney, Noah Brown, Tyler Boyd, and KJ Osborne. Now, we've talked a lot about the guys on the right side, Brown, Mooney, and another Brown, Boyd, and Osborne, but I kind of want to talk my top 3 out of these, and maybe one guy that's not on the list that I think should be definitely given a fair share and a fair look at by Brett Veach. So the first guy is pretty obvious because it's one that I think has been projected to the Chiefs by a couple different organizations, PFF being one of them. It's Calvin Ridley, and his stats this past year, 1,000 yards. You kind of look at this and think, okay, he didn't play football for 2 years-ish, about a year and a half or whatever. This dude still was able to come back on his first season and put up 1,000 yards on 76 receptions and have 8 touchdowns. He's ultimately going to be a cheap guy with high upside. I think that's the thing. You look at this and say, okay, I like the way that I see him playing on the Chiefs squad. I think he fits well with the organization. I think his body type, his play style, it all works well. Plus, if you give these wide receivers Patrick Mahomes, I expect their stats to go up. The Chiefs didn't even have a 1,000-yard wide receiver last year, so the fact they could just sign one, I'll take that. The second one, I've seen your comments, Darnell Mooney. I kind of agree with you. Darnell's been one that is a little bit more underrated than some of the others we've talked about, but I think his value has been diminished in some way. Had 1,000 yards back in 2021 when he was the quote-unquote number 1 wide receiver. That was when Allen Robinson was still with the Bears. He kind of took over that season. That was also the only year that he's played the full season. Past 2 years, it's been DJ Moore's game, and he's been wide receiver 2. I don't think he's ever had a full chance to shine. That's the thing you got to look at here. Allen Robinson was there that year, and he had DJ Moore kind of step in and take over. So he's never really had that chance to be like, hey, I am now going to be the guy. So here's the year. Go do it. Go be the guy. Sign him. Let him come over, play with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. I think that would be a deadly wide receiver combo. But I think the third one might be my favorite. Curtis Samuel. He's the one that I've talked about for, honestly, the past 4 months now, since the trade deadline. This guy was putting up impressive numbers with Sam Howell as his quarterback, and he is the Kadarius Toney, I would say, of the Commanders. He has that gadget-style play type, and in some ways, I know it may be a bad comparison to some of you, he's a Dollar General Deebo Samuel. He can run throughout a lot of different things, has a lot of gadget plays you can implement, and is similar to a McCole Hardman type play. I think he would be awesome. He honestly may be my favorite player if the Chiefs can sign him here. I mean, considering the wide receivers that are available, he would be such an underrated asset and something that would be really fun to watch. That's the bigger thing is, like, obviously the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, so I want to have people who are fun to watch and good. It's one thing to have somebody that plays well. It's another thing to have somebody who plays well and looks really good all doing it and fun to watch. Pick a wide receiver, though. Those are my 3 options. Who is somebody that you would like to see? Is it Calvin Ridley, then type R? Is it Darnell Mooney, then type M? Or is it Curtis Samuel that I want you to type S? Let me know in the comments section down below. R for Ridley, M for Mooney, S for Samuel. The fourth one here is to re-sign a running back. And why? Because you got 2 free agent running backs, you need to bring back one of them. Both of them being Clyde Edwards-Helaire and then Jerick McKinnon. Let's start with CEH because he's the younger one, and he was a first-round freaking pick. But he's never really lived up to that. Every single year, his production has gone down. 800 yards in his rookie year, 517, then 302, then 223. And this year, he was arguably RB3 for the Chiefs. His touchdowns have gone down. Obviously, his receiving has been great, and a lot of times he scores a lot of receiving touchdowns, but overall, he just has never been the valuable asset the Chiefs wanted with that round 1 pick. Now, Jerick McKinnon, his receiving yards have been a valuable asset. The past year in 2022, 512 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns, 291 on the rushing. Jerick, to me, is maybe the more versatile of these two, but I think if it's McKinnon, if it's CEH, I want to get one of these guys back. Now, whether that is Jerick or CEH, I don't really think I have a preference. Maybe Jerick over CEH, but at the same time, Jerick McKinnon's over 30 years old, whereas CEH is 25, 26. He's still got a lot of stuff that he could build on. He looked pretty good for a couple times this year. So I could see them signing both back, to be honest, but I think you at least need to get one back, and then you could potentially draft a running back in the later rounds. Obviously, we saw that work out with Isaiah Pacheco just a couple of years ago. All right, the fifth and final perfect free agent plan for me re-signing Drue Tranquill. I think obviously there's a bunch of guys on this team that I want to have back from 2023, but Drue Tranquill stands out amongst the rest. Why? Because this guy is just so much fun to watch, and he was great. He was really, really good. As a linebacker in coverage, had a 77.5 completion percentage, only allowed 267 yards. And these stats can say a lot, but at the same time, they don't tell the full picture. The full picture is really by watching the games, seeing him going out and being next to the ball, literally like every single play when he was on the field. Plus, he's just a fun guy to have around. In some ways, he may have been the most underrated signing in the NFL this past season. So now you have to bounce on that and make sure that you keep him with Kansas City. So I hope they do. I think he was amazing. Plus, his speech at the parade will go down in infamy. Big Red, T Swift, and the boys came and got him. I quote Drue Tranquill. If you love my Chiefs off-season moves, then give me a little like on the video down below. I'd certainly appreciate it. I think we got a good set of stuff going for Kansas City. And hey, this offseason, man, the train started moving, and they're putting coal to the fire as we speak. So we appreciate you hanging out with us. If you like the video, that way I know we have the good offseason moves. But we appreciate you. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button because we got content being pushed out to you pretty much every single day of the week, sometimes 2 times a day. So, as always, Chiefs Kingdom, peace out.